If you came into today expecting the Niners to keep it quiet, buckle up. Today's got that weird vibe where every headline looks like its own little island, and then you step back and realize it's all part of the same map. One league decision makes you want to shut the TV off. One trench name could change how this offense breathes snap to snap. There's a speed and creation idea being floated that would force defenses to show their hand before the ball is even snapped. And there's a peek at the future that nobody in the faithful really wants to say out loud. You're not going to believe what we've got today. So get settled, tap that like button, and let's get into it. Quick question first. What makes you more insane? The league picking favorites or acting like it's all earned? You know how some NFL honors feel more like a reality show than football? What hit the timeline today is exactly that, and it lands right on the 49ers faithful. The league somehow managed to make the Pro Bowl feel even less serious. And it's not just one guy getting a spot. It's the story they're trying to sell. It's marketing. It's who moves headlines. And it's the same old thing with Brock Purdy still having to pound the table just to get treated like what he is, the guy who keeps the red and gold offense steady when everything tightens up. And if your first reaction is, come on, it's just the Pro Bowl, hang with me for a second. Because the name they slid into the 2026 Pro Bowl roster as an alternate is Cleveland Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Alternate. That alone triggers the obvious question. How does Purdy keep getting pushed to the side while the league keeps feeding the newest storyline? Now go back to the part that actually matters, the football. Remember when the Niners played Cleveland in the regular season? 26-8. The defense swallowed their offense, and Purdy looked like he was playing chess while the other side was just trying to breathe. This isn't me taking shots at Sanders. His career is still being written, but it makes the point hard to ignore. The Pro Bowl keeps drifting toward hype over production, because when you line up the numbers, it's rough. Even with Purdy missing time, he still started 9 games. Sanders started 7. And when Purdy got back on the field, San Francisco got hot. Real impact? With Purdy, the 49ers were 7-2. With Sanders, the Browns were 3-4. Efficiency? Purdy completed 69.4% of his throws. Sanders was at 56.6%. Production? Purdy, 20 touchdowns, 10 picks. Sanders, 7 touchdowns, 10 picks. Passer rating? 100.5 versus 68.1. The only lane where Sanders has an edge is on the ground, and even that doesn't erase what shows up in the pocket. And I can already hear the comments coming. The Pro Bowl is a joke. It's a popularity contest. Purdy always gets ignored. Here's the thing. There's a usable kind of anger in that. Disrespect becomes fuel when a locker room knows how to handle it. Purdy isn't the guy who's going to do the whole microphone rant tour. He answers on 3rd and long. He answers in the red zone. He answers with a drive that shuts the game down. So fine. Let the league play celebrity. We'll play to win on Sundays. And while they're setting up festivities, the front office has a decision sitting right there that could make Purdy's 2026 feel completely different. Because what's next is trenches, money, and one name that changes the tone on the first snap. The gap between pretty offense and championship offense usually shows up in the least glamorous place. Not a one-handed catch, not a viral route clip. It's the space between the snap and 2.5 seconds on the clock, especially up the middle. That's why, while the NFL is loud about lists, the thing that should actually be keeping Niners fans up at night is the offensive line. Protect Purdy for real. Stop living off patches. You can debate needs all day. Wide receiver, edge rusher, defensive tackle, safety. Sure, all of it could use help. But the biggest multiplier on this roster is fortifying the line. It helps the run game. It helps the play action. It helps the pocket. It even cleans up the quarterback's process because he's not balancing on a tightrope every snap. If you want a more stable offense in 2026, you start in the middle of the chaos. And there's one name that would be an all-cap statement if it ever actually happened. Tyler Linderbaum, Baltimore Ravens center, pending free agent. Not just a center either. 3-time Pro Bowler already, young, consistent, and built for what Shanahan asks. And availability matters. He's basically been an Iron Man. Only 2 missed games in 4 seasons. In today's NFL, that's rare. Now this is where it gets touchy, because it hits the spot the faithful argues about constantly. Jake Brendel. He's not some cartoon villain, but he represents what frustrates people. This feeling that the front office looks at the line and goes, it'll hold. And it holds until you run into the wrong front in January and your whole Sunday turns into survival mode. Brendel's been fine, but fine at center in this system can become the ceiling. And moving on would free up about $3 million in cap space, money that doesn't fix everything, but it helps you climb a tier. And if you want the historical goosebumps, go back to 1994. The Niners didn't tiptoe, they spent. They targeted a clear goal. They built a team that didn't want to compete, it wanted to take the crown. One of the tone-setting moves was landing a Pro Bowl center, Bart Oates, to stabilize the middle and unlock the rest of the line. Message received, we're not losing on details. Now picture Linderbaum stepping in and immediately bringing order to the interior. Picture Shanahan calling certain run looks with more confidence because the inside isn't leaking. Picture Purdy getting that extra half second that turns a tight window throw into a clean first down. That shifts the playbook. That shifts the margins. That shifts the season. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. The Niners don't usually spend like that on the O-line. Exactly, and that's why it would hit so hard. It would finally be proof that after all the talk, they're choosing to protect the most valuable investment in the building, the quarterback who makes the whole thing look simple. And if that would be the smart, grown-up move, the next idea is the one that starts arguments, because it's about speed, creativity, and fixing a problem without doing the obvious thing. There's a thin line between a clever chess move and panic dressed up nicely, and what's being floated today lives right on that line. This isn't just go get someone fast. It's a quiet admission that the offense might lose a piece of its chaos button early in 2026, and Shanahan could be looking for a creative way to keep this from starting off limping. When a couple little bits of chatter start lining up, you can feel the smoke. It starts with what fans keep saying. We believe in Ricky Pearsall. I'm with you. The kid can separate, he's got hands, and he fits. But belief doesn't solve everything, especially if you're missing a threat that forces safeties to respect the deep part of the field. And then you get the name that pops up like a spark, Kyle Pitts, Falcons tight end, basically a wide receiver wearing a tight end label. The point here isn't trade the world for him. The point is why the idea exists, speed and matchups. Pitts moving around the formation, lining up inside or outside, forcing linebackers to run or safeties to deal with his size. That's the kind of piece that makes a defensive coordinator sweat before the snap. And here's what gives it weight, the George Kittle situation. The heartbeat of this team ended the year hurt, and there's a real chance he's still working back when 2026 starts. No need to get dramatic. Without Kittle, the offense loses that instant chaos that turns 3rd and 6 into a chain mover. So tight end depth stops being a luxury and starts being insurance. Now I can already hear the pushback. What about Juwan Jennings? Re-signing Jennings is great for what he brings, blocking, tough catches, that dirty work attitude. But he doesn't solve the speed issue, he solves the fight. Pitts would solve a different problem, spacing fear, and Shanahan lives off that. He doesn't just want talent, he wants pieces that force coverage to show itself. If Pearsall is healthy and you've got a weapon like Pitts floating around in motion, you can change the offense without changing personnel. No warning, no tells. That's when chunk plays show up and defenses start guessing. But then comes the question that lights the comment section on fire. Do you pay up for a chess piece, or do you put every serious dollar into protection and trust the rest to fall into place? Because the last piece of today's puzzle leans straight into that tension, and it's the one that honestly feels the most painful to stare at. This is the part that hits you in the gut, because it's not about swapping out some random name. It's about time. It's about admitting the window moves even when you don't want it to. Shanahan basically said it at the end of the year. A lot of the stars on both sides are getting older, losing a step, and the NFL doesn't wait for anybody. And when Daniel Jeremiah puts his mock draft on paper, you're forced to look at a future the faithful would rather avoid. In his mock, with the 27th pick in the 2026 draft, the selection is an Oregon tight end, Kenyon Sadiq. Read that again, tight end in round 1. That alone is enough to make half the fan base yell, "No way," because with so many needs, it feels like a luxury, almost like a provocation. But if you try to see it the way Shanahan sees it, it's not tight end, it's chess piece. The pitch is that Sadiq is undersized but fast, competitive as a blocker, and versatile enough to become the kind of hybrid weapon Shanahan loves. Part George Kittle, part Kyle Juszczyk. Motion, perimeter blocking, routes that start short and then explode. A piece that makes defenses uncomfortable because it doesn't sit in one clean label. But the elephant in the room has a number 85 jersey. Kittle ended the year injured, and the recovery timeline pushes his return past the start of the season. Even if he's a freak and beats the clock, it's hard to imagine Week 1 with Kittle at full strength, and he turns 33 next season. That doesn't erase what he is, it just forces planning. And don't forget Juszczyk. He's hovered on the edge before, left, came back, and the cat math is always lurking. If the team is thinking transition, a rookie with that kind of versatile profile might be the least disruptive way to keep the system intact without rewriting the entire playbook. So yeah, the faithful is going to split right down the middle. Some will call it overthinking. Some will say Shanahan's trying to be the smartest guy in the room. But great teams don't wait for the cliff. They build the bridge before the drop. And if the front office is even entertaining tight end in round 1, it says a lot about how they see 2026. Not as a maybe, but as a decision year. So after all of that, here's the question that sits heavy. Do you take a painful step now to avoid a bigger hole later? Or do you ride with the heart of this team until the league forces your hand? Today felt like one of those days where everything connects, and it leaves the faithful buzzing. The league hands out a questionable honor, and you feel, again, how Purdy still gets treated like an afterthought. Then you look inward and realize the real fix might be the least glamorous. Fortify the offensive line, the spot that decides whether Purdy gets to play calm football or survival football. Then you get the creative spark with Pitts and the quiet urgency of possibly starting the year without Kittle. And finally, the draft talk forcing the future into the room whether we like it or not. Now I want your take. If you could only pick one lane, are you going all in on the O-line, chasing a speed weapon, or embracing the tight end transition with a round 1 pick? Drop it in the comments, argue it out, keep it respectful. And if you're riding with the red and gold, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because tomorrow brings another chapter.